And I'm really, really excited. I'm actually like quaking with excitement, quite literally, to have you all in this room because we've been working on this project since June. And some of you have more recently been pelted with emails, but my colleagues in this room have been pelted with emails from me since June, and they're still here, so that's pretty exciting. We have had a great team here working across 3 libraries, Barrington Public Library, East Providence Public Library, and Providence Community Library. All of us who've been working, and Janet needs to get one, have a gold star on our name tags, and we will also have the gold star on our name tags on Sunday. So if you need a staff person who works for one of the 3 libraries, please find one of us with the gold stars. But they're the group congregated in the back corner, and one of our main, you met Joyce earlier, and also we have a person up here in front, Janet. And so please see any of us today and on Sunday if you have any issues or concerns. So we are really happy to have you. The first thing I wanted to talk to you about is why the Human Library? What's the point? Why are we doing this? And I had a great talk with our mediator today, Ellen, and we came up with this idea about peaceful differences. Peaceful differences and peaceful tension. That everybody, we're all different, and around difference comes a lot of tension. And what happens in our world on a daily basis is that tension turns into hostility or lack of understanding or misunderstanding, or we just don't engage with it at all. We just avoid it altogether. But what the Human Library does, which I think is really unique and really special, is it creates a peaceful tension where differences can come together in the same space with a respectful manner, with the idea of civic dialogue, and that those differences can create tension, peaceful tension, innovation, collaboration, and ways for people to reimagine how we interact with each other, how we talk to each other, and appreciating each other for our cultural differences, for all of the various differences that we have. I mean culture on every level. And that's the point of this thing, and that's why we're doing this. And we really want this small, tiny state of Rhode Island, which is an amazingly diverse state, to talk to each other and to get to know each other, especially because so many of our neighborhoods really are segregated. That's a very loaded word, but we do live in a lot of communities that look just like us. And this is a chance for us to break out of those communities and really engage in a respectful and civil dialogue with people who are different from us. And I think that's really exciting, and I hope that we can create an atmosphere of, like I said, innovation, creativity, generosity, and all the things that we don't often hear about in the media, but that I think is happening amongst all of us every day. And this is a chance to make that public and to invite our entire state to participate in that activity. And I want to thank you for believing in this project and for coming here to participate in this project and for moving that idea forward. And you're all ambassadors now, whether you wanted to be or not. But I hope you did, because otherwise you wouldn't have signed up. You're all ambassadors for that mission, and I just really want to thank you for that. So I also wanted to prepare you a little bit about how the day will go. The majority of questions I have is, yes, I'll do it. What the heck is this thing? So I'm going to hopefully demystify that for you a little bit. So what's going to happen on Sunday is the doors of Rochambeau Library will open. And instead of checking out a paper book or a hardcover book or a DVD, they are going to check some of you out, and the volunteers here will help make that happen, okay? What will happen is people will walk through the door at 1 o'clock, they will come up, they will receive a program, and the catalogs will be available to view. The human books are now fully cataloged. You can view them on our website, which is humanlibraryrhodeisland.com. And there's some floating catalogs around if you're really curious tonight and you don't have a handy-dandy smartphone where you can go on our website and look. So you can check each other out tonight and get a little preview of what Rhode Islanders are already looking at. They will come up to the circulation desk just like they would at the library, only this is a closed stacks. And they will request the human book that they want to read. Then a docent, one of our volunteers, will go get the book who is sitting on their shelf in the closed stacks in the green room. We will keep you all fed and watered in there all day, so have no fear. So they will come get the human book, and they will join you with the patron, and you will go to a table upstairs with the docent helping you to kind of have that little moment of, like, you know, that awkward beginning that always happens. And the docent will help sort of mediate that. And then you'll sit down at the table, the docent will leave you, and the human book and the patron will sit and have a 20-minute conversation. Now for the human books, you will talk about your story, but patrons will also probably want to ask you questions. And that's where we're going to have a special training for the human books. We're going to separate out the volunteers and the human books. For the human books, we'll have a special training about setting boundaries and sort of nicely saying, I don't want to talk about that topic, or that topic's off limits, and you know, that kind of stuff, so we'll talk more about that. But basically, you'll just have a conversation for 20 minutes. A librarian will be on the floor supporting that dialogue, meaning that they will be watching and keeping time. If they notice that something's escalating, they will kindly walk to the table and say, is everyone okay here in this space? And so that's how we're hoping to support the human books here, so you're not just hanging out there all by yourself. And the librarians will also be the timekeepers. They'll say, okay, your 20 minutes is up, and the two of you will come back downstairs. The books get to go back on their shelf, and the patron will either come in here and check out another book, or they will leave.
Can they renew?
There are renewed. You can be renewed as long as you're not on hold for another person. So renewals, but the renewal for your sake, for the sake of the human book, the renewal, they can only do one renewal. Because 40 minutes talking on a concentrated, intense conversation is a lot. And for any of you introverts in the room, that's like hell on earth. So, which I am one of them, so I understand that. So we just want to be mindful of when you guys need breaks too. So for the human books, the conversation will last 20 minutes. You'll come back. There'll be a 10-minute break between your conversation and the next conversation. If any of you need more than that, or anticipate that you will need more than that, please come talk to myself or my colleague Joyce May, who was just up here earlier. And we will build that into the appointment card so that we make sure you can have the time that you think you'll need in between patrons. We really want to encourage self-care during that day, especially, like I said, if you're an introvert and you need to kind of take a walk for a second.
Amy, someone back here just had a great question. Will there be a fine?
The fine will be this redhead coming to talk to you. That should be, no, there's no fine for a late renewal, but we will be asking the patrons to really be respectful of the time, because we are getting some publicity for this event, and so that we're hoping that that means that people will actually show up. And because that's the case, we want to be respectful that there are people waiting to check you out again. So we'll ask you to be respectful of those 20 minutes, but we will also remind the patrons to be respectful of that for the reason that I just said.
What are the hours of it again?
So it's from 1 to 5 on March 3rd. And we have all the information back there. You can grab flyers on the way out, hang it somewhere really obvious so you know when you have to be where. We are going to ask all of you, human books and volunteers, to please be here at 12:15. And the reason why is this. It is a gentle introduction to your day. The first people you will talk to on March 3rd are each other and the staff. We are all here for the same reason, and we are all here with the same goals. And it's a really nice way to start the day, actually, when you're kind of slowly easing into it, than having you show up at 1, have to sit down with someone and get going. So 12:15, please be here. If anybody needs anything, I will send out, I think on the emails I've already sent, we have email contacts and phone number contacts, but I will make sure that you get that again this week. So if anything comes up, you can reach any of the staff that you need to reach. You will be fed. The human books and the volunteers. The human books and the volunteers will have the green room, which is back over here. We have a conference room and a computer room. We are going to block that space off from the public. The public cannot go back there. That space is for volunteers and books. We want to invite you. I might even be open to the idea of turning the conference room into a quiet room and turning the computer room into a conversation room. We will have food in the computer room. You can feed and water yourself at will. I know for me, when I concentrate, I feel like I burn a lot of calories. I was ravenous when I came out of the SATs. So, we want to make sure that you have a chance to refuel throughout the day. To take waters with you, we will have water bottles here. You can take the water bottles with you anywhere in the library for your conversations. And that's a safe space for volunteers and books. What I want to tell all of you is that you can patronize this library formally, meaning you can turn yourself into a patron, fill in a library card and whatever. If you're a book and you want to do that, you need to tell the circulation staff so that we can take you off the appointment list. But you can also talk to each other informally. And in fact, I really encourage you to do that. I was a human book a couple of years ago at American Library Association, and while I loved when I was being checked out. Well, I loved that, and I loved those conversations. Actually, the ones that were really wonderful for me were talking with my fellow human books. I learned so much, and I'm still in touch with a couple of them to this day. So, it's also a networking opportunity and a sharing opportunity for you back in that safe space.
It'd be nice to think that actual books did that at night.
I know, yes. The comment, I don't know, can you hear that? Yeah. It'd be nice to think that when we close the doors at night, the actual books are doing that. Okay, the other thing that I just want to mention really quickly is we are going to have ground rules for all the people. We're going to make a nice big sign. We have this up here. We're going to have them spread out around the space so people are reminded of it. For all of you who run meetings, you have the agreed communication, like respect and all that kind of stuff. You always put them on the agenda or in obvious places. We're going to do that here too. And we're also going to make sure that our greeters, our docents, all of our volunteers are reminding patrons that these ground rules apply. They are also located in the program. So these ground rules are to show respect and kindness to everyone here, to speak one at a time in any interaction happening here. There's permission to pass or end any conversation. And that's especially for the human books. You need to know that if any conversation goes in a direction that is uncomfortable for you, bail. And it's okay. We don't want you to be traumatized in any way. We don't want you to feel not physically assaulted, but verbally assaulted in any way. Now, this has happened in 60 countries all around the world many times, and there has only been one ever incidence of violence. One. In hundreds and hundreds. In hundreds of, no.
Not physical.
No. This was Russian style. This was, I think, a not exploded Molotov cocktail. But in St. Petersburg, and it was a Russian nationalist. This has happened hundreds of times all around the world, and that's the one incident that ever happened, and no one was hurt. No one was hurt. And I'm sorry?
Besides the bail, if it's violent, usually thought about 10 minutes isn't very long. If it's mutually agreed that 5 minutes is enough, can that be rescheduled?
Yes. If the conversation comes to a natural end,
Yeah.
That's okay. Sure. And human books, we're going to have a special training talking specifically about what your one-on-one interactions are going to be like. So we'll get into more nitty-gritty for the human books at that time. There's also permission to take a time out at any time, and that goes for volunteers too. If you've had an interaction with someone that leaves you feeling like you just need to time out for a second, we're all allowed to do that on that day. We're going to have different people who you can report to, and throughout this training today and on Sunday, we will make clear who those people are, so that you know who you can go to and just say, hey, I need 5 minutes. And that's totally fine. We also want to encourage everyone on this day to be comfortable with silence. Silence, especially in America, is really hard to come by, and a lot of people are very uncomfortable with it. But in these kind of conversations that we're having, including with the docents and the greeters, if people are debriefing with you and want to share with you what their experience just was, give each other space for thinking, and that's okay. So we want to encourage that moment of silence is okay. And we're also going to tell everyone to silence their electronic devices. So that applies to you too. So hopefully you'll remember that when you walk into the building on Sunday. But we'll also encourage the patrons to at least turn it on to vibrate so that it's not disrupting the whole space. So we really want to make sure that we're setting a tone of respectfulness, that we are setting a tone of civility, that the point of all of this is to be open to each other and to a new experience and to a new way of talking with each other. And I think that with all of you here with that intent, I mean, think of it, there's a lot of people in this room. And there's going to be more. There are people missing tonight who couldn't make it. We'll all set the tone for this space, and I think that changes everything. And then, like I said, the program will have signs everywhere. So between all of those things, hopefully we'll be able to set a really nice tone of openness and sharing.
How many books do you have?
We have 43 books. Yeah. And you can see all the human books on the floating catalogs or on our website, as I said. I really encourage you to read about each other because you're all quite fascinating, and which is why you're here. And I think you might actually feel really inspired by each other, and you might even, by reading the descriptions ahead of time, find that while you're sitting back on the shelf, you might have people you want to secretly take out by yourselves sitting back in the green room while you're eating and drinking and whatever. So the other thing is we would love to have your help with publicity. We have had some success with the media. We're hoping to go on the road show and go on WPRO. And it's possible that Rhode Island NPR will be here on Sunday. We have a confirmation, except she said if any breaking news comes up, we get tossed. So hopefully no breaking news comes up and she'll be here. But we are getting some publicity, but we would love for you to have family and friends come, especially you human books. You know, if you have family and friends who might even want to engage with you here in a different way, please feel free to invite them. We have extra flyers in the back on the table, the registration table. Take them and paper your towns, paper your neighborhoods. We've been a team of 7, and now we're a team of almost 80. And you know, Rhode Island's not that big, so I'm figuring we've got the whole state covered in this room. Because if everybody really is related, as it seems, or 3 people removed, then we probably do have the full state covered. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to invite up Ellen Lynch, who's our mediator, and she's just going to spend a few minutes talking with us about de-escalation. So the reason we're having all of you part of that is if we do get slammed that day, meaning that we have hundreds of people who come here who want to check out you amazing books, and I cannot blame them for doing that, it's possible that volunteers, docents, and greeters may be dealing with some people who are waiting for quite some time. And any of us who have waited for quite some time, we know sometimes we're not always very nice about that. For the human books too, this will just be a chance to just be mindful. This is not to scare anyone. In fact, it's the opposite. The point of this is to prepare everyone so that I think these kind of situations become significantly less intimidating when you have a sense of how to deal with it. And that's why Ellen's here, and that's why we invited her to come. So I invite her to come on. Yes.
I have a question.
Yes, Edward.
The books, are they only English speaker?
Actually,
What was the question?
The question is, are the books only English speaking? And actually, when we have the breakout session, Joyce is going to be taking account of those who aren't, or who are bilingual, or I'm sure some of you are even multilingual. And so we're going to make sure that we include that in the catalog. It's not up there yet, but we will make sure that we have the people who are multilingual covered. And we were talking about getting translators, but that was not something we were able to do. So
There are different editions of us.
there are different editions of you, exactly. So some of you are multilingual, and in which case we'll make sure to advertise as such so that folks who are not native English speakers or who don't speak English at all may be able to find someone that they can check out and communicate with. Hold on. Sorry.
So is it a one-to-one book?
Yes.
People take out the same book at the same time, or
No. The only time a human book will ever be checked out by 2 people is if it's a minor with a parent. We are not letting kids 14 and under check out a book by themselves because we're not. And I sound like a parent there, don't I? Because I said so, and that's the reason. So the only time you will ever be dealing with more than one person is if somebody's here with a minor, or if somebody maybe has auditory issues or translation and they have a person who can translate for them, or sign or something like that. That's the only time you'll be dealing with more than one person. And for the human books, like I said, we are going to go into a very specific training shortly. So if it's a specific one-to-one conversation about the book experience, we will be talking about that shortly. Any other questions right now? Okay.